Hey guys, it's Peter, and I'm back. Of course I'm back. I'm not going anywhere. Beast. I'm YouTube famous now. Available in 2027.5.2 and a half, 3/4. The album, Dad AF. I went to a party last Saturday night. I didn't get laid. I got in a fight. Okay, let's get into this. Lita Ford remix. Rock on, gold dust woman. I am in such a fantastic mood today, and no, it is not because I just tried IKEA's vegan hot dogs for my review channel. They were disgusting. Go check out my review over there. It's kind of a serious, funny review. But I went to IKEA on a busy Saturday afternoon and I tried their vegan hot dogs, and yeah, they look straight up like turds, okay? But you go try them and let me know what you think. So anyway, let's get into this video. Today I am making a video about Shane Dawson's newest episode in his series, The Beautiful World of Jeffree Star. This newest episode was called The Dangerous World of Jeffree Star, I believe. And so I want to go in and I want to talk about it a little bit. Now, I watched 3/4 of it, half of it yesterday, and I watched the rest of it today when I got up. And I really wanted to kind of like watch it and then really just think to myself, like, my reaction. I didn't want to just like get on video and give some, you know, quick response to what I had seen. And I have to say, okay, going into this video, that first of all, my opinion constantly changes. But I'm starting to kind of understand this series, which is no surprise to me that it took me 3 episodes to get into this series to kind of like understand, not really understand the series, like I understood it, but like understood the model of the series, if that makes sense. So I'm going to explain that in just a second. But I have to say, number 1, this has been my favorite episode so far. Number 2, and I think partly because I got what was going on. And number 2, the most endearing episode. And if you haven't watched the episode of it, go watch it. The last 5 minutes are just absolutely heart-wrenching and just super endearing. You guys know I'm a big crier anyway, but I was bawling my eyes out the last 5 minutes, and I'm going to talk about that in just a second. So I went into this episode and I didn't really know what to think. A lot of people were saying that he had changed the direction of this video, and that originally this video was supposed to be about the drama within the community, and that he was going to talk a lot about that, and that he went in and he changed this episode. I don't know anything about that. I have no clue about that, but I did get quite a few DMs about that and comments on my last video. So I don't know anything about that. So I went in watching it just as it is, if that makes sense. And this episode was mixed and edited to be them looking at the pans, the shades that he got, and for his palette. And then, like, the names of it and swatching it and all that. And that was kind of interspersed with Jeffree Star's warehouse having been broken into, which that happened, like, I guess, March, April. I don't know. They talk a lot about that. And then the old controversy of Shane and his cat and all of that. So it was all kind of mingled together. I thought the way that it was all handled was done very, very well. And I was super impressed with how it was done, okay? I just want to say that first of all. Now, there was a lot of question in my last video on whether or not I thought this was just about money and those kinds of things. I didn't get any sense of that in this video. I will tell you that when I went back and I watched the last video that I made my video about that, my opinion changed a lot about that. Because I do think that that's a factor in all of this, but I think that the way that it was portrayed, I was reading into something that maybe there wasn't there. So I'm just going to say that. If I see it come up further in the video series, I will mention it again, but I didn't see it in this episode whatsoever. I will say this, that I'm hearing a lot of people say that this whole video series is this marketing strategy. I've heard, actually I've been contacted by a lot of people that are in marketing, that are in, like, work for PR teams and things like that are saying that this whole series is just a marketing, basically a scheme, which is interesting to me that we would use a 9-part series as a marketing strategy, which would not be stupid. Let's just be for real, okay? It wouldn't be stupid if that were the case. that it's a marketing strategy, and then at the end, they're going to drop the palette. Like on the 9th episode, they'll be like, okay, here's the 9th episode. Now the palette is live. You can go buy it right now. If that is the case, okay, and that is the intention behind the series, which I don't believe that that's the whole intention behind the series, because the series has so many different things to it, and it's so interesting to me at this point. If that were the case, though, it is a brilliant, genius idea in a way that we have never seen done before on YouTube or anywhere else for that matter. So it would show what marketing geniuses Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star are. So if that's the case, I don't fault them for that, right? And I'm intrigued by it. If it is from a marketing strategy, I have to just say from a personal point of view, I want the mirror. I want the black hoodie with the pig on it. I'm extremely intrigued by the palette at this point in a way that I wasn't in the past. But I think that what is so smart that they're doing is, listen, I think we all know by now that this palette and merch, when it goes live, is literally gonna sell out within minutes. I mean, it just is, right? And rightfully so. Like, they're taking us through the process, and this is what is so genius about this, I think, is that they're taking us through the process, and so they're getting us invested in it as well, you know? And I was kind of thinking about this, like, from a business model. It's very similar to, like, Build-A-Bear, if you think about it, right? Because you go into Build-A-Bear, you pick out what they have, and then you have, like, a personal story that goes along with it, why you want said bear, why you pick a certain outfit, and all this kind of stuff, right? They're doing that with us. They're bringing us along for the story, and so we're becoming invested in this palette almost to some degree, because if we are people that are huge fans of YouTube and YouTubers, Jeffree Star, Shane Dawson, all these people that he's named people after, you know, if you are in the palette, if we become invested in them, then of course we're going to be invested in this palette. It's genius. It's smart, right? But it's making me want these things. So it's working if that's part of it. And I have to believe that from a marketing point of view, yes, that is part of it. But I don't believe that that's the intention behind the series. Let me tell you what has changed for me with the series and why I am really intrigued by it in a way that I was kind of just like, back and forth a little bit before, was that I don't know if this is intentional or if this is on the heels of how Netflix has done series like The Keepers, The Staircase, Making of a Murderer, and things like that. But those series have done so well on Netflix. What doesn't do really, really well, but has done well for Shane Dawson, is autobiographical studies of somebody. So, for example, if you go and you watch a documentary series on, like, if you just go on there, I watch so many documentaries on Netflix, right? But if you go on there and you watch a documentary about just one person, okay, like he's done on Jake Paul, like he did, on Eugenia Cooney, or whatever the other series that he's done on Jeffree Star, like the one he did before. They're autobiographical studies of a specific person. This is not. This is a chronological countdown, and so what it's doing is it is getting us involved in the timing and the pacing of the story as well. And it's very, very smart. When you're reading a book, so for example, like a Michael Crichton book, if you've ever read one, like Jurassic Park, he wrote ER, things like that. All of his books are done, like you'll read it and it'll be like 8:08 p.m., 10:02 p.m., 12:01 a.m. and it paces you. So you feel as if you're reading it, like you're going through the journey with the writer and the story. Shane is doing that this time with us. Okay, this is not just an autobiographical study of let me show you Jeffree's closet, let me show you Jeffree's house, which all of that is interesting as well. What he's doing is he's bringing us along for the chronological journey of when this started to when it will end, right? Which I have to believe that there will be filming of this series right up to the point that it is released. I mean, I think there are pieces of this series that haven't even been filmed yet because we're not at that point of the series yet, if that makes sense. So that makes it even more interesting because more stuff could happen. More stuff could come out between now and the release of this palette. So I was very interested in all of that kind of stuff. The swatching and all of that and seeing that, I have to say, like, I have read and I've talked about people being very, very critical of Shane Dawson and his makeup skills. I was pretty impressed with what he did with Ryland when he did Ryland's look in the video. I also thought it was one piece interesting to see all of Ryland's family in Jeffree Star's tracksuits, which I thought was kind of cute. I also love the part when they were driving through the gate and the guy said that they looked like a bowling team. But it was kind of funny to see, you know, like Ryland's family, like all in these tracksuits. But it was super, super endearing to see Ryland getting his makeup done by Shane. And it was not missed on me as somebody that, I love, okay? I just do. Whether it's in a book or a movie or just whatever, I love. To see the way that Ryland was looking at Shane while he was doing the makeup, look at Shane being excited and passionate about something he's doing, and the way that Ryland was looking at him was just so endearing for me. And then that part goes into the end. Like, I could get teary-eyed even talking about this, you know, where he proposes to Ryland, and it was just so beautiful. And I said this to them back in the day on Twitter or wherever, and I think I texted him, but congratulations to Shane and Ryland again on your proposal. It was just so cool that they also allowed us into that intimate moment. I think we forget that sometimes. You know, I think that for YouTubers, we expect that they show us everything or a little or whatever. And Shane is not somebody that shows every bit of his intimate life. So for him to bring us in for that intimate moment, I thought was very, very cool. And him also to tie it through with this other stuff and to show that, like, hey, we're normal people, but controversy happens to us as well. That was very cool. Now, before I get into the proposal and the end of the video, because that's for me what was like so poignant and beautiful about the video, I do want to say this, that there were some comments that, like, you know, they talked about the controversy and how they were going to turn it into the like he said, from now on, if anything comes out and I'm trending, you know, negatively, I'm going to talk about the palette and stuff like that. I didn't really know what to think about that. Now I had covered the Jeffree Star break-in on the warehouse, and Aphrodite, the psychic, if you don't know him, he did a whole reading on who he thinks is behind that. So you should go check, allegedly for entertainment purposes, you should go check that video out. It's very, very telling what he says in there. That was interesting to me. What was interesting to me, and I did not remember all of that happening, you know, the cat stuff and the break-in at the warehouse, I did not remember that happening on the same day, but I guess it did. That would be real easily fact-checked, so I didn't fact-check it, so obviously it did happen on the same day. But, you know, what was interesting to me was I never connected the two back in the day, and I don't think any other drama commentary channel did either, of saying that those two things were like somebody trying to take down Jeffree and Shane. That was interesting to me, because if no drama or commentary channel and nobody on Twitter was really addressing it, what that meant was that that was a behind the scenes thing, okay? That was someone behind the scenes trying to take down Jeffree and Shane together. And they kind of alleged that in there as well. They kind of said some things that could be. I will be interested to see if there's more follow-up on that, because I think to this day we don't really know what happened with that warehouse situation, which was a huge deal. I mean, I can't even imagine, you know? And I think in that moment, we got to see Jeffree very human, very real in that moment of how he deals with this stuff and how he was anxiety-ridden and all that kind of stuff. I think that what was interesting to me, and when he said it, I was like, I mean, it was a making of a murderer moment. It really was. When Jeffree was talking about what was stolen, and he said all of these palettes, the concealer, like 2 or 3 of them, and then he said, and all of my Red Bull. And I sat there and I watched it, and that literally, I mean, that was like a true crime moment. Okay, now y'all know, if you watch my videos regularly, I have a true crime book club, run with my good Judy, Mel, and we read a different true crime book every month. I listen to so many true crime podcasts. There may be one coming up with me in the future. But, like, I listen to so many true crime podcasts, and I read all the books and whatever. That is not a subtle hint, okay? That was a personal attack on Jeffree Star. And I did not know that until I watched this episode, that they had taken his Red Bull. If he has spoken about that, I did not know that. But when he said that in the video, I was like, this is a big deal. Like, this is a huge deal, a bigger deal than people know. This isn't about somebody just breaking into your warehouse. And Aphrodite said that in his video. This is a bigger deal than somebody just breaking into your warehouse and stealing your components and stealing your whatever, and which that alone is a huge deal. But on top of this is so personal that somebody, because we all know Jeffree Star loves his Red Bull, right? So they come in there and they just take his Red Bull. Like, that's really a personal attack. And it's very invasive. And I thought that was very telling in the way that they put that into the video. I also thought it was Jeffree sharing an intimate moment of himself, which I thought was great, because that's what I have said in my previous videos, that I'd like to see more intimate moments with Jeffree, so we can see him as a real human being, you know? I will say this, you know, that when we want to talk about these conspiracies that keep on coming up and whatever, you know, whenever we are introduced to a new audience, like Shane is introduced to Jeffree's audience, or Jeffree's audience is introduced to Shane's audience, okay? The things that they've been accused of from the past are going to come back up again. They are, because there's going to be a new audience that is introduced to that. So even though they've addressed these things in the past, those things are going to come up again in the future, you know? And it was interesting to me, kind of, that Shane said that Jeffree's take was always like, I'm not bothered by this doesn't bother me. I don't get that impression by having watched Jeffree over time. Like, at certain moments, he has come out and addressed things, and, you know, and I really think that all of that falls on the person out there watching, whether or not they accept that or not, you know? So, I don't know, like, that, and that was such a small part of the video. So it was interesting to me that, like, this whole video was kind of centered around all of these, like, things that have been said about them and the break-in. I think it'll be shown further down in the series of how they deal with that. You know, there has to be at some point where they talk about how Jeffree Star deals with all of the scrutiny that he gets too. I would have to think that that would be in this as well. So anyway, that was interesting to me. You know, the continued way that all the palette is made and all that stuff is just, it's becoming very cool to me in a way that I didn't think that I was interested in it. And if you're somebody that watches Netflix, you know what I'm talking about. There was a series that was called Wild Wild Country, and so many people were recommending it to me. And it was about this guy that, and I am interested in the makeup world. So, you know, that is an area, obviously, I do videos on it, that I am interested in it. But there was a series that came out called Wild Wild Country. And it was about this guy from India that came over and he started a commune in the United States. And when I, like, heard about it, I wasn't that intrigued by it. To this day, it is one of the documentaries that I recommend the most to people because it was so fantastically done. I was so intrigued by the characters, the process of how they set up this commune, the takedown of all of it, everything that happened, the way that people were affected by it. All of it was so interesting to me, as well as the way that it was edited and portrayed for the audience was just so finely done that I think that's what's really pulling me in. I think that Andrew and Shane are really, like, they do such a great editing job anyway, and we all know that, and they all, you know, Andrew always gets accolades for his editing, but I think they're really starting to figure out how to work together in a way that is, when you watch it, you stylistically know it is Shane and Andrew. And what I mean by that is, like, if you see a fashion designer and you see, like, you know, Diane von Furstenberg and how she does the tie-around dresses, and you know that's her, right? Or if you look at a Versace, like, print, and you know that's a Versace print, we're starting to see stylistically a Shane and Andrew print that we know is theirs. So I think that's very smart, and I think we're starting to see the way that it all works together. The end of it with the proposal, I was bawling. I want to say this, that, you know, yesterday was National Coming Out Day. It was not missed on me, and I don't know if this was purposeful for Shane or not, that he included that in the video on National Coming Out Day, that it came out. But I thought that in a very subtle way, and he probably didn't, I don't know, but I thought, because he didn't know when the series was going to come out, but I thought in a very subtle way, it was so fantastically done, you know? I think that there was a lot of discussion in 2019 going into 2020 that, like, what's the point of coming out? Like, people just come out and whatever. I am somebody that have been so blessed, you know, that, like, my family and my friends always supported me when I came out. It was, like, really like a non-issue, if that makes sense. That is not the story for hundreds of thousands of people. You know, hundreds of thousands of people that still come out this day, you know, as LGBTQIA+, are shunned by their families. You know, they're ostracized by their friends and families. They're misunderstood. Our suicide rates of the LGBTQIA community is huge, right? It's something to be taken very, very seriously. And the fact that he showed hope in his video, that you too can one day get married and be accepted by your family and have your family around you, possibly, or the family of your choice, I thought was so fantastically done, especially on National Coming Out Day. And I don't know if that was planned that way or not, but I just really loved that that message was woven in there. I thought it was beautiful, and I just loved everything about that. I also loved that he showed that in the midst of crisis and controversy, YouTubers are still human beings that have their personal life, and they can't stop that and won't stop that in the light of that. And I think that that's really important to show that, like, anybody out there that you watch, any YouTuber, is a human being that has stuff going on inside of them. And then the very end of the video was dedicated to Jeffree Star's dogs. This has been, you know, like a really hard thing for me watching all this go by. And I'm not going to personalize this, but I have a dog that has heart disease. Many people know Pee-Pee the Flying Chihuahua. And when I've watched all this stuff go down with Jeffree, I just cannot even imagine losing one dog, let alone two, in a matter of months. I said that to him the other day. I saw some people on Twitter saying some just horrible, horrible things, you know, about this. And I just thought, why would people be so cruel? I don't understand it. I thought it was so beautifully done that Shane dedicated the video to, you know, Diamond and Daddy Star. I loved the scene at the end of just seeing them in the yard. You could see, it just really, really moved me emotionally. I thought it was so beautifully done. And I thought it was just such a pure moment, you know, of, and also the showing before that of Jeffree and him like hugging when they're like looking over the pans and stuff. It's just, I don't know. I just really love the way that it's all intermingled. I've been able to kind of sit back since I've reevaluated kind of my point of view of all of this and been able to appreciate the entertainment value and the beauty of it. I think maybe that doesn't mean that I'm not going to continue to be critical of things that I see in this. But, you know, at the same time, I was able to watch this episode and just watch it from an entertainment value and just really, really enjoy it. And I did. I thought it was a beautiful episode. I will say this. I made a video on James Charles yesterday, and somebody said, I got a comment, only one, because I think people know that I talk about all these people pretty equally, you know, at this point. But somebody said, oh, you're always being so hard on James Charles. Really? I think I'm pretty fair on James Charles. Okay, let's just be for real. I think I'm pretty fair with James Charles. But on the heels of watching this episode yesterday and having made my video yesterday, which I called James Charles shady or smart or whatever, and he came out with the mini palette, I know that that mini palette of James Charles must have taken a long time to come out with. It's not something that, like, could have been made overnight. I mean, 2.5 years probably, no. But I mean, even the component would have taken a couple months to put together and all that kind of stuff, right? I thought the timing of the video announcement with Jeffree and Shane also announcing that they're doing a mini palette, I thought that was interesting. I'm not going to read into it any more than that, but did anybody else think that that was interesting? I thought that was interesting. I am sure there's a lot of talk that goes on behind the scenes. I don't know who. No, Tati, no. Gabriel Zamora is friends with all these people. Does it surprise anybody that everybody is friends with Gabriel Zamora, and he's like always the first one to come out and tell everything? Like, why would you tell Gabriel Zamora anything at this point, right? But whoever it is behind the scenes, I don't know who it is, but it makes you wonder if James knew that in that series, they were going to come out and announce that they were going to do a mini palette, right? And then he posts this video of his mini palette the same day. I don't know. It just seemed very coincidental to me, and I am not somebody that hugely believes in coincidence. I just don't. But I thought that was interesting. Maybe there's nothing to it. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I love you, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.